Hi, everybody. Welcome to In the Weeds with Jimmy Young on location. Again, this time at the opening of Joint Operations, a dispensary in the tiny town of Mendon, Massachusetts. Interestingly enough, this is their second operations. Their first one's in Rowley, another tiny town in Massachusetts. And Alan Lennick is with us. He is the Director of Retail Operations for Joint Operations, and also affiliated with a group that I'm familiar with anyway, called Cannapreneur Partners. So, Alan, thank you so much for joining us, and tell me a little bit about, I know you're from Minnesota. They got it right. And I have a lot of respect for the state of Minnesota that's not allowing the not in my backyard cities and towns to opt out for adult use legal sales in that state. How big an issue, how happy were people in Minnesota when they found that all out?
Well, it's an interesting question because in Minnesota, we didn't have the experience of what happened in other states where they did have that. So as a general population, there wasn't as much concern over it because they didn't know to be concerned about it. I'd spent the last 9, almost 10 years in Los Angeles where we saw very different patterns of how things opened and then were forced to close and all of that.
And they had a great caretaking system set up in California and have ruined it with the adult use legalization there. And it's been so mismanaged. But this is not about California. This is about Joint Operations here in Mendon. Really nice interior, a very nice selection, because as I look through your selection box, oh, I know them, oh, I know them, oh, I know them. They're all the big brands, if you will, in the greater Boston area, greater Massachusetts area, the Berkshires, Central Mass. They're all here. All the biggies are here. All the brands are here. How important from a retail perspective is it to have that kind of diversity? You've got, I see Wana brands, I see PAX, those are the biggies, but I also see Coast Cannabis, and I see Camino, I see Kiva, right? So, I mean, how important is it to have that variety, especially when you open up another dispensary in Massachusetts?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. When we look at our business, we really pride ourselves on 3 things that it's easy to remember because they all start with P: the products, the price, and the people. So having the right mix of products and having whatever it is somebody might want, they'll be able to find it here. That's really important. Having competitive prices is really important. The biggest thing, and I think the reason that people keep coming back, we've only been open for a month rather. Today's the grand opening. Yeah. But in the first month, it's the people that work here and the exceptional customer service experience that we have that keeps people coming back.
And the education of America has to happen at every level for people to understand some of the benefits of this plant. And yes, there's plenty of science and research to support a lot of the anecdotal evidence where people say cannabis has saved my life, cannabis has changed my life, it's helped people get off opioids, it helps people sleep through the night. But as you know, there's a log jam. There's a few other words for it in Washington that we can describe what's going on in Washington, D.C. However, the industry as itself thought it would be further along towards legalization now, even a few years ago. Capital has kind of dried up a little bit, and it's more and more difficult. Where is the future? I mean, are you guys confident that you're going to survive the market correction that's going on right now?
Well, yeah, we're certainly confident that we'll survive it. We expect to not only survive it, but thrive in it.
That's my mantra, by the way, for the industry. Survive to thrive.
To thrive. That's a good mantra. I like that.
You can use it. It's okay.
All right, thanks. So, yes, we expect to be able to survive and thrive. We have our first location opened in Rowley a year ago, and this is the second location. We have a third that's going to be coming in Gardner in the not-too-distant future. And that's just the joint operations dispensary business. So we'll keep opening additional locations of the dispensary brand. In the umbrella of Cannapreneur Partners, which you had mentioned being familiar with, we're also getting started in an extraction business and some other additional cannabis-related businesses that are all going to be under that umbrella.
So in the manufacturing community, this is something we actually talked about on Green Rush Live on Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, by the way, every Friday on our network, is the fact that now is the time for everyone to kind of take a deep breath, look at what you're offering, and say, you know what? We have to educate the masses of people that aren't so familiar with this product. Aaron Smith, who's the executive director of the NCIA, made a great speech one day in Albany talking about if you truly are pro-cannabis, if you truly do understand the plant, its importance in our history, in our science, and the research behind it, we all have an obligation to enlighten those that are not so educated about this product. One of the things that feedback I keep hearing about this particular dispensary is the education of the bud tenders. And because they're the front-facing people, they're the ones that actually talk directly to the public. When you guys set out on doing these ventures, what do you look for as far as a key to say, you know what, this is a good model, this is a good, very differentiated retail store or operation, but manufacturing of products, those can be actually done through a recipe,
Sure.
right? And with no interstate commerce, we still can't move flower from one state to the other, even though there's an abundance here and nothing over there. I mean, Minnesota just started. You have nothing open. You have no grows going right now. And yet you have Oregon with an abundance of product. You've got Massachusetts with an abundance of product. Flower. But with manufacturing, they can give you the seedling or the clone, right?
Right.
And I'm not just saying your company, I'm just saying in general, and replicate as close as possible the resin, the edibles, the recipes that are going across state lines and being recreated in each individual state. To me, I look at that and I go, that's so hypocritical. But how do you ever explain that to the people in Washington, D.C., right? I mean, how in the world are we going to move past that? Because everybody says, well, they got to have interstate commerce at some point. I'm like, they're already doing that in a different way. What's your feeling about that? How are we ever going to get to interstate commerce? And is it going to take the legalization to make it happen?
I would think so, in all likelihood. It'd be great if it could happen faster than that, but
I call this cannabis standard time, right? It's basically one step forward, 2 steps back. Oh, hello, hound dog. I love it. I love the cannabis industry because they let their dogs go for, legalization, for the most part, everybody thinks is going to take at least 10 years now, which scares a lot of people. But it isn't what I preach. I preach, can we accept it normally before we even get to legalization through education? And isn't that what we're looking for, to get acceptance?
no question. That is a huge part of it. And, you and I were talking before this. One of the things I didn't mention to you that drew me to be working with this company is my father-in-law was a pharmacist in Miami. So he sold, regular pharmaceuticals. He was also a big proponent of cannabis. Not so much a user personally, but I mean, I'm sure he tried it at some point in his life. But he was really a believer in not just the medical benefits, but the overall societal benefits. He always made some great jokes about, you've seen drunk drivers. Have you ever seen a high driver? They're just slow. He's like,
Everybody knows that, and yet they still are trying to figure out ways to measure operating under the influence of cannabis. And the best way to do that, by the way, to me, is educational and responsible use. Because I have had too many edibles at one time, and I refused to drive because I did not feel comfortable doing that. And I do preach responsible use, so I had to cancel a show one day, whatever. And again, it's why the mantra of start low and go slow is a mantra for the medical community. As far as when you try cannabis, 2.5 milligrams is an entry-level dose. Absolutely. Start low there, and especially if you do an edible, because it's not going to hit you for half an hour, 2 hours. Some people 3-4 hours later. Yeah. So, and everybody's different. You talk about a challenge. Are you guys, you're not worried about it because you're in it. right?
Well, I mean, it's always something that you worry about in general, just because you want people to understand what the benefits, what the side effects would be, all of the different stuff. And one of the things that our district manager here, Daniel Lencioni, is really a master at is making sure that everybody is educated in this stuff and setting up the dispensaries in such a way that it drives towards education. So we have a whole area here behind you with a lot of different information on CBC, CBD, CBG, CBN. All of this stuff is here because we want people to understand what it is that they're consuming and why they would choose whatever they choose.
Right. And there are still people that are even not afraid so much, but uncomfortable going into a dispensary just in case, my next door neighbor may have seen me, or, I don't want my son's teachers to see, or whatever it is, whatever the excuse is. We have to normalize this product and preach responsible use. Did you know, this is a great thing, you were talking about your dad being a pharmacist, right? Did you know between 1900 and 1910, doctors that went to the medical schools of Harvard University, NYU, Yale University, three of the oldest medical schools in our country, wrote 5 million prescriptions for cannabis in those 10 years. And then 27 years later, they put a racist in the job of the first Federal Narcotics Bureau, Harry Anslinger. This is the history of it. By the way, look it up, folks. It's not just my opinion, okay? This is actually who they put in. And it was the money of the people that were funding the Industrial Revolution, the Hearsts, the DuPonts, the Carnegies, because they felt threatened by the hemp product.
Right.
And here it is now, trying to battle all this stuff. If we go to a hemp-based society, we will not have as many, we will not pollute it. We will not kill our climate. Though that would be awesome, but it's going to take, look at how far and how long it's taken people to get used to it, even in this 5 to 10 year period that I call the green rush period. So I guess the question is, if you look at this industry now, where do you think the growth is? Is it on the medical side? The adult use side, I don't like to use the word recreational because I don't think you should be using medicine recreationally. Do you use Robitussin recreationally? No. But guess what?
Well, some people
I was
think it's
say,
a bad idea.
Well, I was going to say it's a bad idea. It gets you high, okay? But that's not something we want. We want you to understand. I only use Robitussin when I have a cough. Oh, silly me, But, where do you think? Hemp future, medical cannabis future, adult use recreational future. You guys have an adult use license. There's more sales in adult use than in the medicine side, but most of the people that come into that adult use dispensary are taking it for some medicinal purpose.
Absolutely.
So how do we get to the point where we can explain that to the masses, to our governments, to our elected leaders in towns? Because there's still a lot of towns out there that have opted out of the option to actually get taxes in based on the sale of this. Where do you think the future is? Hemp, medical, adult use, and again, I understand that this is just your opinion now.
Yeah. Well, it is just my opinion. Right. But I would say a combo of the adult use and medical, because exactly as you said, the vast majority of people who come into a dispensary are looking for something other than just to get high. It's, I want help sleeping, I have problems with anxiety, or I have, as you and I were just talking about, joint issues. There are all kinds of different reasons that people want to take it, and it may not be, medical strength all the time, but they want that benefit from what they're taking.
That's right. And learn about it. Do some research. More importantly, like, share, and subscribe to In the Weeds with Jimmy Young and all the Pro Cannabis media programming, because I guarantee you will learn something in just about every interview or show that we do, plus our weekly news show. Very proud of We Talk News and our anchor, Elena Pinto. But, Alan, thank you so much for sitting down with me, and best of luck to joint operations. And I look forward to hopefully doing some things with you guys, because I can see that you guys get it here.
Well, thank you very much. We're very excited that you're here. We really enjoyed getting to talk with you today and look forward to more.
There you go. And if you too want your dispensary to be a destination dispensary for In the Weeds with Jimmy Young, you know how to find me, Jimmy, at Pro Cannabis Media. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly and continue to like, share, and subscribe to Pro Cannabis Media.